In the intricate dance of relationships, whether personal, professional, or romantic, the importance of boundaries cannot be overstated. Boundaries serve as the unseen structure upon which respect, understanding, and value are built. Without them, we find ourselves wandering aimlessly, allowing others to take more than they should, and giving away more of ourselves than we ever intended. There are certain boundaries, particularly for men, that establish the foundation of value and respect. When these boundaries are maintained, others are more likely to see you as a figure of worth, a person who is not easily swayed, manipulated, or undervalued. The first boundary that makes men value you is the boundary of self-respect. It is the most fundamental and perhaps the most overlooked. To respect yourself is not merely to assert your rights or demand that others acknowledge your worth. It's about living in a way that reflects an inherent belief in your own dignity. Self-respect is expressed in how you carry yourself, the standards you set for your own life, and the choices you make that align with your values. When you live by these principles, others are less likely to view you as someone they can take advantage of. If you constantly lower your standards for the sake of appeasing others, or fear that someone might not like you if you stand up for yourself, you weaken your own sense of self-worth. People instinctively recognize when someone has an inner sense of value. They will value you as you value yourself. A man who is willing to endure discomfort for the sake of his principles is always seen as a force to be reckoned with. Another crucial boundary that commands respect is the ability to say no. Saying no is one of the most powerful ways to establish what you value and what you are willing to tolerate. There is a common myth that in order to be liked or respected, one must always be agreeable, but in reality, constant agreement with others often leads to resentment and self-neglect. The ability to say no is not about being combative or stubborn. It is about maintaining control over your time, energy, and emotional well-being. A man who is clear about his limits and is willing to enforce them is seen as someone who is not easily swayed by external pressures. This boundary ensures that relationships are founded on mutual respect rather than manipulation or convenience. People will value you more when they understand that your time, effort, and emotional investment are not to be taken for granted. The third boundary that makes men value you is the boundary of emotional control. In the modern world, there is often a temptation to allow emotions to govern our actions. It is not uncommon to see individuals react impulsively, letting anger, frustration, or anxiety dictate their behavior. But emotional control is not about suppressing emotions or pretending that they don't exist. It's about recognizing that you have the power to decide how to respond to your emotions. When you take responsibility for your emotional state, you stop giving others the power to dictate how you feel. Emotional control doesn't mean you never get angry or upset. It means you know how to express your emotions in a constructive way without causing harm to yourself or others. A man who can manage his emotional responses with maturity and poise is one that others trust, respect, and value. People are drawn to stability, and those who can maintain composure, even in stressful situations, are seen as individuals who have mastered themselves. The fourth boundary that earns respect is the boundary of responsibility. Taking responsibility for your actions, your decisions, and the consequences that come from them is the cornerstone of any meaningful life. Responsibility is not something that can be delegated to others, nor is it something that can be avoided. The modern world often encourages a victim mentality, one in which personal failures are blamed on external circumstances, other people, or systemic injustices. But those who truly make an impact in the world are those who accept full responsibility for their lives. They do not see themselves as passive recipients of fate, but as active agents who shape their own destinies. Responsibility means owning both your successes and your failures, knowing that your choices have consequences, and being willing to face those consequences without complaining or shifting blame. When you live with a strong sense of responsibility, you show others that you are someone they can rely on, someone who does not look to avoid hardship or responsibility, but someone who steps up to meet the challenges life presents. The fifth boundary that earns respect and value is the boundary of personal growth. A man who is committed to personal development is constantly evolving, learning, and striving to improve himself. This boundary is vital because it reflects an understanding that life is not static, and neither should one's character be. Personal growth involves a willingness to face discomfort, challenge old beliefs, and overcome personal limitations. It requires the humility to accept that you do not know everything, but also the confidence to believe that you can learn and grow in the process. People are drawn to those who are actively working to become better versions of themselves, because it signals an openness to change, a refusal to settle, and an acknowledgement of the infinite possibilities that life offers. This boundary is not just about external achievements or acquiring more knowledge, it's about the internal commitment to become a better person day after day. Those who observe your journey of growth see you as someone who is dynamic, purposeful, and always striving for something greater. Together, these 5 boundaries: self-respect, the ability to say no, emotional control, responsibility, and personal growth form the foundation of a life that others will value. It is not enough to simply set these boundaries. You must live by them every day. There will be challenges, setbacks, and temptations that attempt to lure you away from your principles. But it is precisely through maintaining these boundaries, even in the face of adversity, that you earn the respect of others. In a world that often rewards passivity, mediocrity, and self-neglect, those who remain steadfast in their principles and self-respect are the ones who ultimately command the most value. People are not attracted to weakness, and they do not respect those who are easily manipulated or swayed. However, they are drawn to strength that is born not from physical prowess alone, but from the integrity of character. When you live in accordance with these boundaries, you become a person who stands out, who commands respect, and who is valued not for what they do, but for who they are. This process requires constant vigilance, self-reflection, and sometimes a great deal of discomfort. But in the end, the rewards are immeasurable. As you maintain these boundaries, you not only enhance your own sense of self-worth, but you also cultivate relationships that are built on respect, understanding, and mutual value. The world will never stop challenging your boundaries, but when you uphold them with conviction, you position yourself as someone who knows what they are worth and is unwilling to settle for less. The first and most crucial boundary in any relationship is self-respect. When you hold yourself to high standards and live in alignment with your core values, you signal to others that you cannot be taken for granted. People value those who respect themselves because it reflects confidence, integrity, and a clear sense of personal worth. The ability to manage your emotions and take responsibility for your actions creates stability and trust in relationships. By demonstrating emotional maturity and owning the consequences of your choices, you show that you are someone others can rely on, not easily swayed or overwhelmed by external forces. This fosters deeper respect and lasting value. Self-respect is the cornerstone upon which all true value is built. It is the invisible force that shapes how we carry ourselves, how we treat others, and, ultimately, how others perceive and value us. Without self-respect, we become susceptible to the whims and opinions of others, constantly chasing external validation, instead of relying on our inner strength and conviction. In a world that often rewards conformity and the desire to please, self-respect becomes the foundation of a life lived with purpose, integrity, and meaning. To begin with, self-respect is not about arrogance or entitlement. It is not about placing yourself above others or expecting the world to cater to your every whim. Rather, it is about acknowledging your inherent worth and treating yourself in a way that reflects that. This can be seen in the way you set boundaries, the way you prioritize your time and energy, and the way you make choices that align with your values and principles. When you respect yourself, you establish a clear sense of identity and a framework for how you will navigate the challenges of life. At its core, self-respect is about acknowledging that you are worthy of dignity and consideration. It means recognizing that your thoughts, feelings, and needs are just as valid as anyone else's. It's an internal compass that guides you in moments of doubt or difficulty, helping you make decisions that are in alignment with your highest self. When you respect yourself, you refuse to compromise your values for the sake of external approval or fleeting comfort. Instead, you act in ways that honor your truth, even when doing so might be uncomfortable or unpopular. In relationships, both personal and professional, self-respect serves as a shield against manipulation, dishonesty, and exploitation. It sets the standard for how others should treat you and allows you to walk away from situations or people that do not honor your worth. Too often, individuals allow themselves to be mistreated or taken advantage of because they lack a sense of self-respect. They may fear rejection, seek approval, or feel they have no other options, and so they tolerate behavior that diminishes their sense of value. However, when you truly respect yourself, You recognize that you deserve to be treated with kindness, honesty, and fairness. This doesn't mean you demand perfection from others, but it does mean that you do not tolerate abuse, disrespect, or neglect. Moreover, self-respect is integral to building a healthy sense of self-worth. In a world where social media and external comparisons can easily lead to feelings of inadequacy or insecurity, cultivating self-respect becomes even more vital. It requires an unwavering belief in your own value, independent of what others think or say. People who lack self-respect often look outward for validation, seeking approval from others, chasing after praise, or attempting to fit into molds that are not authentic to who they are. But this kind of external validation is fleeting and unreliable. It cannot provide the deep sense of fulfillment that comes from knowing and respecting oneself. Self-respect is also about owning your mistakes and taking responsibility for your actions. It's easy to fall into the trap of blaming others or external circumstances when things don't go as planned. However, true self-respect involves a willingness to reflect honestly on your choices, learn from them, and make amends where necessary. It's not about self-punishment or shame, but about recognizing that you have the power to change and grow. When you take ownership of your mistakes, you demonstrate to yourself and others that you are not a passive victim of your circumstances, but an active participant in shaping your own life. A person who respects themselves does not allow fear or insecurity to dictate their behavior. Instead, they make choices based on what they believe to be right, regardless of how others might react. This courage to live authentically is one of the hallmarks of self-respect. It takes strength to be true to oneself in a world that often pressures individuals to conform or fit in. But those who maintain their self-respect are able to navigate these pressures with grace and confidence, knowing that their worth is not defined by others' opinions or expectations. They are willing to face discomfort and uncertainty in order to honor their values and principles. Furthermore, self-respect involves the cultivation of self-compassion. It is not about being perfect or never making mistakes. It is about being kind and forgiving to yourself when you fall short. People who struggle with self-respect often engage in negative self-talk, berating themselves for their flaws and shortcomings. However, this kind of self-criticism only serves to diminish their sense of worth and prevent them from moving forward. True self-respect involves treating yourself with the same care and understanding that you would offer to a close friend. It means acknowledging your mistakes, learning from them, and then letting go of the shame or guilt that might otherwise keep you stuck in the past. One of the most powerful aspects of self-respect is its ability to influence how others treat you. When you carry yourself with dignity and hold yourself accountable for your actions, others begin to recognize your worth. People are drawn to those who respect themselves because they exude confidence, integrity, and clarity. This doesn't mean that everyone will always like you or agree with you, but it does mean that others will recognize your value and treat you accordingly. When you respect yourself, you become less reliant on the approval of others to feel good about who you are. This creates a powerful shift in your relationships, as people begin to treat you with the same respect that you give to yourself. It is important to recognize that self-respect is not a static state. It is something that must be actively cultivated and nurtured over time. Life is full of challenges, setbacks, and moments of doubt, and it is easy to lose sight of our own worth in the face of adversity. However, those who have developed a strong sense of self-respect are better equipped to weather life's storms. They are resilient in the face of difficulty because they know that their value is not dependent on external circumstances or the opinions of others. They are able to face setbacks with grace, knowing that their worth remains intact regardless of what happens. A lack of self-respect, on the other hand, can lead to a host of negative consequences. When we fail to honor ourselves, we open the door to unhealthy relationships, toxic environments, and self-sabotaging behaviors. People who do not respect themselves often struggle to set boundaries, allowing others to take advantage of them or manipulate them. They may also find it difficult to pursue their own goals and dreams, instead settling for mediocrity or constantly seeking approval from others. Without self-respect, we become disconnected from our true selves and our own potential. We are more likely to compromise our values, abandon our dreams, and settle for lives that are less fulfilling than what we are capable of. It is also important to note that self-respect does not mean isolation or arrogance. It does not mean building walls around yourself or pushing others away. Instead, self-respect allows you to engage with the world in an authentic way, free from the need for validation or approval. It allows you to be compassionate toward others while still maintaining your own sense of worth. When you respect yourself, you can show up fully in your relationships and interactions, offering others the same level of dignity and consideration that you give to yourself. This creates a dynamic of mutual respect and understanding, where both parties are valued for who they are, not for what they can offer or provide. Ultimately, self-respect is the foundation of a meaningful and fulfilling life. It is the key to unlocking your true potential and creating relationships that are based on mutual respect, understanding, and value. When you respect yourself, you create a life that reflects your deepest values and desires. You are no longer at the mercy of others' opinions or external circumstances. Instead, you are grounded in the knowledge that you are worthy of dignity, love, and respect simply because you exist. This belief in your own worth empowers you to navigate life with confidence, resilience, and authenticity. It allows you to build a life that is true to who you are, rather than one that is shaped by the expectations or judgments of others. Emotional control and personal responsibility are two of the most powerful forces that build trust in any relationship, whether personal, professional, or social. In a world that often encourages impulsivity, immediate gratification, and emotional reactions, the ability to manage one's emotions and take full responsibility for one's actions is a rare and invaluable trait. This kind of self-discipline and accountability not only enhances personal well-being, but also fosters deeper, more meaningful connections with others. When emotional control and responsibility are present, they serve as the bedrock of trust, respect, and reliability in all aspects of life. Emotional control is not about suppressing or denying emotions. Rather, it is about understanding and managing your emotions in a way that prevents them from controlling your actions. Every person experiences a wide range of emotions: anger, sadness, joy, fear, and frustration, but it is how we respond to these emotions that define us. Emotions are signals. They provide us with valuable information about ourselves, our needs, and our environment. However, when emotions are allowed to control our behavior without conscious reflection, they can lead to poor decisions, harm to others, and the erosion of trust. For example, an angry outburst in a moment of frustration may cause lasting damage to a relationship, even if the anger is later regretted. Conversely, someone who can acknowledge their anger, pause before reacting, and choose a measured response is seen as emotionally mature and trustworthy. Emotional control requires a deep level of self-awareness and self-regulation. It is about recognizing the internal signals of your emotions and choosing how to act rather than reacting impulsively. This is particularly important in high-stress or conflict-ridden situations, where emotions can run high and responses are often driven by fear, insecurity, or frustration. In these moments, emotional control allows you to step back, gain perspective, and respond thoughtfully rather than being swept away by the intensity of the moment. It is this capacity to maintain composure and act with clarity that builds trust in others. The ability to manage emotions also allows for better communication. When emotions are expressed constructively, they can foster understanding, connection, and resolution. For instance, someone who is upset may express their feelings calmly and assertively, explaining their concerns without resorting to blame or aggression. This kind of communication creates an atmosphere of mutual respect and openness, which is essential for building trust. On the other hand, someone who reacts impulsively, yelling or becoming defensive when upset, can quickly create a hostile or dismissive environment that erodes trust and makes it difficult for others to feel safe or understood. Furthermore, emotional control helps to avoid the escalation of conflict. In any relationship, disagreements are inevitable. However, how these disagreements are handled determines whether the relationship strengthens or weakens. When individuals are able to remain emotionally composed during conflicts, they are better able to listen, understand the other person's perspective, and work toward a resolution. In contrast, when emotions run unchecked, conflicts can spiral out of control, leading to hurtful words, blame, and long-lasting resentment. Emotional control, therefore, acts as a safeguard against the destructive power of unchecked emotions, ensuring that conflicts can be navigated in a way that preserves trust and mutual respect. Equally important is the concept of responsibility, which is the cornerstone of trust in all relationships. Taking responsibility means acknowledging that your actions have consequences, whether positive or negative, and being willing to own those consequences. Responsibility is a sign of maturity and accountability. It reflects an individual's understanding that they have control over their choices and that their behavior impacts the people around them. When someone consistently takes responsibility for their actions, they become a person others can rely on and trust. Trust is built on the understanding that a person will not deflect blame, make excuses, or attempt to evade the consequences of their actions. Personal responsibility is particularly crucial in maintaining healthy relationships. If you fail to take responsibility for your mistakes or missteps, you create a dynamic of distrust and uncertainty. Others may begin to feel that they cannot depend on you because you are unwilling to face the reality of your actions. This can lead to resentment, frustration, and ultimately, a breakdown in the relationship. Conversely, when you take responsibility for your actions, whether they involve mistakes, misunderstandings, or shortcomings, it demonstrates to others that you are reliable and accountable. People will respect you more when they see that you are willing to own up to your behavior and make amends when necessary. Taking responsibility is not always easy, especially when the consequences of your actions are uncomfortable or difficult to face. It can be tempting to shift blame onto others or to avoid taking ownership of mistakes, but this only undermines trust and damages relationships in the long term. For example, if a colleague fails to meet a deadline and attempts to blame the circumstances, the team may feel frustrated and unsupported. However, if the individual takes responsibility for the oversight, apologizes, and works to make things right, they will be viewed as a person who can be counted on. Taking responsibility requires courage and honesty, and it is this authenticity that earns the trust of others. Emotional control and responsibility are intricately linked. When you are able to manage your emotions, you are better equipped to take responsibility for your actions. Emotions, when left unchecked, often cloud our judgment and make it difficult to see the consequences of our behavior. When we react impulsively, we may not fully recognize the impact of our words or actions on others. However, by practicing emotional control, we can pause, reflect, and make decisions that align with our values and sense of integrity. This, in turn, allows us to take responsibility for our actions in a clear and thoughtful manner. Another critical aspect of emotional control and responsibility is the ability to forgive. Forgiveness is not about excusing harmful behavior, but rather about releasing the grip that anger or resentment has on you. It is a conscious choice to let go of negative emotions that prevent healing and growth. When you practice forgiveness both toward others and yourself, you create an environment where trust can flourish. Holding on to grudges or resentment only poisons relationships and makes it impossible for people to move forward. However, when you have emotional control and take responsibility for your role in a conflict, you open the door to healing and reconciliation. It is important to recognize that trust is not built overnight. It is a gradual process that takes time and consistency. People do not trust those who react impulsively, blame others for their mistakes, or shirk responsibility for their actions. Trust is built through repeated actions that demonstrate emotional maturity, self-awareness, and accountability. When someone consistently shows emotional control in difficult situations and takes responsibility for their actions, they create a foundation of trust that others can rely on. This trust, once established, forms the basis for deeper connections, stronger relationships, and a sense of security in interactions with others. The value of emotional control and responsibility extends beyond interpersonal relationships and into personal growth. When you are able to manage your emotions and take responsibility for your actions, you build self-respect and self-confidence. You are no longer a passive participant in life, reacting to circumstances as they arise. Instead, you become an active agent of your own decisions, choices, and behavior. This level of self-mastery enhances your sense of self-worth and empowers you to navigate the complexities of life with clarity and purpose. It is through emotional control and responsibility that you develop the resilience and strength to face challenges and setbacks, knowing that you have the power to shape your own destiny. Ultimately, emotional control and responsibility are not just about maintaining harmony in relationships. They are about creating a life that is guided by integrity, authenticity, and personal accountability. These principles build trust with others and foster a deeper understanding of oneself. When you are in control of your emotions and take full responsibility for your actions, you become a person who is trusted, respected, and valued. This trust becomes the foundation of all meaningful connections, and it is this trust that enables you to build a life of fulfillment, connection, and purpose.